Harry and Meghan are back all over the newspapers, particularly Meghan. She's apologised for potentially misleading the court. Harry has come out and claimed that the word Megxit is sexist. Tom, are any of those stories take your fancy?
Well, I don't
You've been enjoying. You've been reading Finding Freedom.
I mean, the case between the Markles and the Mail on Sundays publishers is going through the Court of Appeal at the moment. So there's things that are drifting out of that, but we'll know a bit more probably. People watching this podcast will know more about this by the time we get to it. So we should probably park that. But the Megxit thing I thought was quite fun. I mean, so he was on this Wired panel about online disinformation, something like this, and he goes into
World
this
expert.
Well, he's actually got one of his many jobs, is that he's on this commission of the Aspen Institute looking into online misinformation and disinformation. What qualifies him for that? I have no idea. But so along other pearls of wisdom, apparently he said that he warned Jack Dorsey at Twitter that the storming of the Capitol was going to happen before. So I was like, I tried to warn you that something like this would happen, which is both sinister and funny at the same time in terms of his new outsized role in the elites. But the Megxit comment is fascinating. So his point was that it is and was a misogynistic slur. I think the reason for this is because, as a lot of people pointed out at the time of Megxit, was that this hashtag had been circulating in the kind of murkier corners of the internet amongst people who just really didn't like Meghan, some of them for bigoted reasons, no doubt. So there's a little bit of truth to what he's saying. But we all know what he's trying to do with this, which is to conflate criticism of him and his wife with misogyny in this case, because I guess he's, gone hoarse talking about racism for 5 minutes. That seems to be exactly what it is. Megxit, it's Meghan and exit, like Brexit put together. We all understand that. It's just even if they didn't actually come up with it, when we all saw it, it was like, oh, that's just a cheeky kind of tabloid coinage. But I think this is a slightly more silly example of just how, and Harry and Meghan are par excellence for this, identity politics is just a perfect way to deflect criticism and demonize your opponents, even if you're the most privileged people imaginable. They've done that time and time again. I mean, the thing about Harry and Meghan always strikes me is they were going to war with the press before the press were going to war with them. Really.
Yeah.
Remember that? It was either a letter or a statement that he put out. This way back in 2016. This is while everyone was just quite happy for them and thought they were quite cute and whatever. Admonishing journalists for the colonial undertones of their reporting and all this kinds of stuff. And he's just really incredibly preoccupied with it. But what I find striking time and again, although I think the shine is starting to come off them a little bit, is that people just defer to these often quite ridiculous claims. They just think, fair enough, yes, of course there was something nasty about all of the coverage of you two, even in the absence of any explicit bigotry in the actual coverage. So, yeah, it's just the silliest example yet of that shtick that he and Meghan have, I think.
Ella?
Well, I think that's the kind of key point, is that despite the fact that this pair have relinquished their royal titles in some way, they still use the Duchess and whatever kind of vocabulary, but they're not allowed to wear the medals, they're not allowed to have the privilege and all of that, but they do still have the privilege of deference. And not that I think it's, I'm not standing up for tabloids ripping women and being nasty about them, but you only have to pick up a copy of Closer or Heat magazine to see what they're saying about Katie Price. In the grand scheme of things, the way in which Meghan is treated tends to be in a very kind of, I would say, obsequious kind of way. And there's this individual who, aside from her acting career, really hasn't done very much for society, still enjoys the lionization of the royals. Still, the two of them they can do no wrong in many people's eyes in a way which makes, anti-monarchists like us sick. But, aside from that, the weaponization and commercialization of offence that these two are able to do is more sick-making. I mean, the fact we had Brexit, we also had Legxit. I mean, everyone's done they put zit on everything. But it's like, come on,
not reopen those
this
wounds.
Individual who we're meant to feel so sorry for being so put upon. In fact, I think it was in that interview with Wired, Harry came out and said, 70% of all of the hatred that my wife gets comes down to 50 accounts on Twitter. It was like, So what's the problem then? Just block them. I mean, doesn't every celebrity have a cohort of mad and unpleasant and bigoted and, sometimes dangerous followers who get obsessed with them? I mean, pretty much every public figure can list you at least 50 accounts of people who they would really rather would fall off the edge of the planet. But I mean, it's like they want celebrity. They want to sell the lattes and they want to do the Netflix deals and they want to do all of that. But they don't want the dirtiness that comes with it. And that's not to suggest that, it's not like we'll just put up with it, society is bad and celebrity culture is bad and shut up. But I kind of am saying that because you can't, unless you give anything to society, and I'm now sounding really moralistic, but I mean, screw it. Unless you do something, if your whole basis is being a royal, and not just that, but a royal who not so long ago spent most of his time being incredibly unwoke in different various uniforms and costumes, and I have very limited sympathy for you, and we shouldn't have to continuously capped off when they're not royals anymore.